The Stateside Soccer Show is now covering Ted Lasso.
If that's a joke, I love it. If not, I cannot wait to unpack that with you.
That's no joke. The Stateside Soccer Show now presents Believe Cast. We aren't talking about faith or ghosts.
Do you believe in ghosts, Ted?
I do. But more importantly, I think they need to believe in themselves.
We are talking Ted Lasso episode recaps. So sit back, get ready for us to discuss all the tea.
You know, I always figured that tea was just going to taste like hot brown water. And you know what? I was right. Yeah, it's horrible.
Hello and welcome to Believe Cast, presented by the Stateside Soccer Show. We are recapping Ted Lasso, and Logan, I just want to apologize for 2 weeks ago when I said that I was the more handsome co-host. So, with me today, of course, is the more handsome one, Logan Stump.
Oh, welcome to our little trans-dimensional joyride, folks. I'm Dr. Logan, your friendly controller, and one heck of a podcaster if I do say so myself, Jordan.
You know, Logan, I just got to correct you here. This is the Ted Lasso podcast, and
right.
not the dinosaur Disney Animal Kingdom rehearsal.
I do apologize. It's just been stuck in my head. But I just imagine like Jamie Tart wears dinosaur socks. Like that seems very fitting.
Maybe underwear.
It could be underwear. Yeah.
So we are talking episode 7, of season 3, The Strings That Bind Us. I do wanna say real quick before we jump into this, Logan, since you weren't on the last one and I know you really liked Sunflowers, just give me your initial thoughts on Sunflowers, and then I didn't even give a I totally forgot to give it a player of the weekend and executive of the week last week. So I'm not even going to ask you those, but just your thoughts on Sunflowers.
I thought it was a unique take on an episode. Like it was one that I think was a good break from what we typically get with Ted Lasso. And being in Amsterdam, I think that was awesome too. Like I thought that was really well done. Just as far as like storyline and the way that they've kind of built out Rebecca and, kind of going with this like prophecy that she's, eventually becoming a mother, I think. So like, I think that's where we've kind of landed on that, where I think that's the next step. We just don't know how she gets there. And so I don't know. I thought it was a really unique take. I think my favorite part of that episode was probably the ongoing like training session that Jamie and Roy were on when they're riding the bike and Roy can't ride a bike, which I thought was so cool that they kind of wrote that in where, Roy is training Jamie to be this superstar and Jamie can't really do some of the easy things, but it's like all of a sudden now Roy can't do the easy things and ride a bike. So I thought that was a lot of fun. Just him chasing and grunting Jamie down with the bike and stuff I thought was great. But this was a great episode. I really did enjoy it. The only storyline I didn't really care much for was Ted's, because I thought it was kind of weird. But it was interesting how they kind of played that off as he's like, he was high on just trying to figure out what exactly the problem was with the team was the essential, I guess, storyline for them. But no, it was definitely one of my favorite episodes I've watched Ted Lasso, just because it was so strange and so different.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it as well. But now we're going to dive into The Strings That Bind Us. That was directed by Matt Lipsey, written by Phoebe Walsh, and it aired April 26, 2023 on Apple TV+. And the synopsis was, the Greyhounds try a new strategy that has everyone thinking outside the box, and Sam prepares to host a VIP guest at Ola's. So your initial thoughts on this episode, Logan?
It's wild to me, and I told you this yesterday, that the episodes just keep getting better. And I think this is probably top 2 or 3 episodes, in my opinion, of Ted Lasso, just because I love the dynamic between a certain character that we'll get into that comes into the show. And I don't know, it felt really good. I thought they tackled some important issues that I think we ignore, especially we. Just because I think our media gets whitewashed, or sports get whitewashed in so many ways, that we just ignore the actual problems that happen with some of these football players and what that emotion does to people. But I thought they hit some really cool topics But I really, really enjoyed this. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought everybody's storyline was fantastic. I love the Keeley storyline, so I'm excited to talk about it because I enjoyed the episode.
Yeah, I thought it was a really great episode as well. I'm very happy we had Sam having a huge role in this episode because he's kind of been MIA since the last time we focused on his restaurant.
Yeah, last time I talked, like the last episode we did, you'd said that too. You'd been like, you said, "Man, I'm really." It sucks because I really love Sam, and they give so much attention to him in the second season that he's just kind of gone absent. It's like, where's he been?
Yeah, well, right here apparently he is now. He's got a big role in this episode, which is great, and really like the character work of Jamie, as we'll talk about Jamie later on in this, and of course, I actually really liked Nate in this episode as well. So yeah, there's a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss, a lot to get into here. So of course, the episode opens with Ted, Beard, and Roy trying to go through their total football tactics. They, get they get the team together, right, and they're explaining it to them. I like that they point out Jamie had worked with Pep Guardiola at the at Manchester City when they're highlighting this as well. So it already is giving a clear indication here that Jamie is like aware, right? Jamie is somebody that's going to know more about this philosophy than probably anybody else in this room, and that comes in pretty handedly later on in the episode. So thought it was a great start. I like that they mentioned him quitting to go on the reality show as well, because that's something that just I totally forget about at times that happened at the beginning of season 2, and that he comes back, and that's how he kind of gets to Richmond. We also have Ted getting talked to by the fans again before training. That's Baz, Jeremy, and Paul. Those are their names, the people that hang out in the pub for the losing streak. So he actually invites them to training for the next day, which I thought was a really cool move. I know Beard and Roy are kind of like, what are we doing, coach? But look how excited they get, right? That they immediately stop like shit talking and they immediately get excited that they're going to go watch the practice. It reminds me of when he like let them into the field in like season 1 or something. And I kind of like how these characters have, they even mention it, like, we have to stop going soft on you now, Ted, right? Like they'd kind of loosened up to Ted and now they have to kind of act like hard asses again as they get ready, as the team is continuing to struggle.
Yeah, no, I like this a lot, and I think too is that I know you and I have covered the actual game, and been in now in press conferences, and the more you actually get to like see a person behind the curtain, and you actually saw a curtain in gym, but like you get to see these coaches and they're face to face with you, and these players, and it's like it's amazing to me that like with probably 9 out of 10 people could be faced with that same thing. Like at the end of the game, you have a chance to ask the player or criticize the player or criticize the coach. And I guarantee you 9 out of 10 of us wouldn't do it. Like it is so humbling. And like you see that this is a real person. It is so different on the inside and what I think these guys go through. And I think it's cool that that Ted is like, guys, you want to see what it's like? Come on. And Ted is so likable anyway. So he is like a kind of like a Pat Noonan, or he's kind of like an Oscar Pereja, or different coaches in our league that we just talk about. I think that you see a personality and you put a person,
Peter Vermees,
like
with his losing
right.
streak.
I think my favorite part of this one, though, Jordan, is when when Roy goes, "What the hell are all these people doing here? Like, who invited them?" And Ted goes, "Yeah, I can't believe Beard invited all these guys. It was his idea." So he puts it all on Beard. Beard goes, "What?" Like, very nonchalant, like, no, like that's not, nope.
One thing I really liked about this too is what Ted says, right? It's their club. We're just borrowing it for a bit. And that's really how it is over in Europe. It's not, it's the illusion of, not really illusion. It's for the sake of being transparent, right? You want to know what's going on? come watch us practice. We are trying. We are trying to get this right. We're going to be testing out a new system. Like all that kind of stuff that is being very open about it. And something I really like to see from Ted as well.
That's something that
We
like
do.
Pep.
Yeah, go
That's
ahead.
something like Pep and them do. I don't know if well, I guess Graham Potter doesn't do it anymore. But I think
He's not doing much
right.
anything right now.
But I like Pep will always say that too. Like English football managers will always, if you ask them like that your club, and a lot of times they'll correct the press and go, "It's not my club. Like this is the fans' club. I'm just coaching it at the moment." And so that's always a cool dynamic for me because in the US we don't get that. It's very much like, oh yeah, this is my team. This is my club. Like we're doing this. It's much more of like, yeah, I coach this club and yes, it's us, but it belongs to the people. And if they're not happy, then I should leave.
Right. Yeah, there are some people that do leave because of that and having like a bad a bad run with the team. I mean, Graham Potter, you mentioned him. I mean, it was said it was mutual, right? So it depends on how much you read into those things too. Was it really mutual, or did they fire him and they're giving him some sort of um, grace, I guess you could say. But we then go to Jack and Keeley, which is where Jack gives Keeley this first edition of Sense and Sensibility signed by Jane Austen. Logan, I guess we can just get the Jack and Keeley stuff out of the way because this kind of sums up the whole episode for them. It's mostly Jack love bombing, right? That's what they call it. Kind of like love bombing, constantly showering her with gifts, surprise trips, all this kind of stuff. And Rebecca is going to have a talk with her about it and say, hey, this is something Rupert did for me. So comparing Jack to Rupert is very interesting, not just because they both have money, but because they're both almost using the same similar tactic. Now, I want to get your thoughts on this. Is there any maliciousness to Jack here, or are we led to believe by the end of the episode when Keeley says she's taking Jack out that they are on a good path going forward? I want to get your take on the vibe between Jack and Keeley.
This is something you and I talk about in a lot of these episodes where Ted Lasso and the writers tend to go the opposite direction in which most sitcoms or most comedies or most feel goods would go. Like this would be one of those things that like in Friends, say for instance, it does happen with Monica because Monica gets a restaurant. I forget it's Pete, right? That buys Monica a
Yeah.
restaurant. And
then he becomes
yeah.
the ultimate fighting.
Yeah, but like he's love bombs her. I love that term. I love that terminology that they're using. It's like they're bombing you with gifts. They're showering you with gifts. You see this a lot with people that do have money that are able to do this for people, and a lot of times it does not end well. But I really do, because I can't imagine Jordan that Keely's poor. Like Keely's got a lot of money. She was a model. She was around the club. She's Rebecca's friend, so naturally she's going to get more.
She has money, Logan,
yeah,
but it's not murder someone and get away with the money.
Which is what Jack says. And she goes, "Oh shit, really?" like Keely is like, "Oh my god, are you that rich?" And she goes, "No, I am pretty rich." But I think if I'm going off of now trend of what the Ted Lasso writers do, I think that this is just a hiccup because I really do think that as they get towards the end of the episode, Keely's like, "Let me pay for you," and Jack seems very receptive of like, "I'm just so used to supporting people that I love like that. Like it is something I've always done." And there are people like that, right? There are people, we talk about this, I think now more than ever, as we talk about people's different love languages. And I'm sure, yeah, they've had the conversation, but it seems to be really relevant now is like people have different ways to show people that they love them and affection. And this is one of those ways is to gift give. Like people love gift giving and they see that. But because she has a lot of money, those gifts are going to be extravagant. But I do love the like personal charm she writes in Jane Austen's like first edition, like she's just writing in notes and stuff. But yeah, I think it's going the opposite direction. I think it is going to a good place.
Yeah, and I thank you for pointing that out to me because again, we kind of get into this thought process of like we're so used to seeing other tropes from other shows that maybe go down a path where you're like about to roll your eyes, like, oh, here we go. It turns out Jack is evil, right? Like that's kind of, or Jack is manipulative. And I hope they do stay away from that But I do wonder if Jack and Keely are endgame here
Right.
because I feel like we just know so little about Jack. And that's a problem for me. All we really know is that she's rich, she has a crush on Keely, and she buys stuff. Like we haven't gotten enough Jack to like make me think she's perfect for Keely. We only got 5 episodes left. Can they go that distance and make Keely and Jack interesting?
Yeah, no, but you say that now, like you have a tendency to do that, where you say it and you speak it right into existence. Like this episode, we're gonna get,
Yeah.
Jack's story where she's coming out and her parents weren't accepting of it or something like that. Like it's gonna be,
Yeah.
it's good. Which I think that they could definitely do that, like where we start to really build Jack in the next 5 episodes. We still haven't gotten word if this is the final season. Like you would think by now we would know. So I'm starting to think that it's not.
I think we won't know
You don't
until
think?
it is truly over.
Yeah.
I think we'll be able to kind of read the tea leaves from how it
I
ends.
guess, yeah.
But I think the internal struggle is Apple wants it to continue, and I think Jason and the writers want it to end. I think that's kind of the vibe I get from this. Yeah, I don't know. But you know, you were also talking about Keely and Jack, and I you know, with Keely and Jack, their whole situation, them getting to know each other, her showering with gifts, and it's just like you said, Keely has the money, but she doesn't have as much money. So like this, what does Jack say this runs her like couple mil
Yeah.
to get this book? And then she defaces it by writing something in it. I mean, like that's you know, and she does handle it well, right? When Keely says like kind of enough, like enough of this. But I do think Keely was actually enjoying it until Rebecca mentions it. So I don't actually know how much of it was like, I think maybe Keely had blinders on until Rebecca points out of like, hey, this is what, you know, she's doing. I saw some people online think that, and I don't think this is going to be the way it goes. There were some people speculating that Barbara, you know, who is underneath of Jack and kind of the CFO, that she notices the book and remarks on the valuable gift and kind of is trying to make Keely feel bad about kind of have relations with her boss. Some people think maybe Barbara and Jack had the same sort of thing go on, but I don't think that's the case. I don't get that vibe from Barbara. I think Barbara's a little jealous that Jack is taking to Keely so much. And, you know, I don't think Barbara thinks that highly of Keely. So I'm not actually sure that that's, I don't really see where that theory is coming from. But anything else about Keely and Jack before we move on to another storyline?
I mean, they make the like you said, like they make the relationship public to the office. I love that they do that. Like again, stuff that would normally in other shows go the other direction where they hide it and then somebody finds out about it.
It gets in the press
Yeah,
or something.
Yes, but it's very open. It is. It's so much more like I love that about Ted Lasso. It's so realistic in the way that we handle things. I think it does a really nice job of that, where we, you know, it's real life, and I think that's why people connect to it because it is relatable.
All right. What storyline should we go with next? I'm thinking we go with Sam. Do you want to go with Sam?
We'll save Sam till last.
Yeah, we can save Sam for last. Let's go with the team, just the team as a whole, changing into this new system that they're going to be playing. And we get to the point of them Roy suggests, right, tying each person's dick to another person's dick to try to know that, you know, because the goal of Total Football is to know where your teammate is going, know where they are, you know, supposed to be. And how else would you know that other than being tied to their dick? Which this was a little overboard for me. This is Roy being totally cruel. I don't see how any of the other coaches allowed this to happen.
Yeah, this this was one of the ones where I was like, okay, like it has commute. Like I would have been better if they would have been like, Roy, we can't do that. But then they go along with it. And it's like, okay, like I guess if you've gotten that humor, then I guess good. But like it was kind of like that's odd. Like that would, especially with other people like watching. I don't know. It's very strange. It's very Bob Knight. Like it's very cruel, and people get in a lot of trouble for this kind of stuff. So I don't know. It was a little bit much, I think, for this show. So
Yeah, and it did kind of work for me when they're going to do it again, and he's like, "I figured out we tie 5 people to this
yeah,
one guy's dick," and they were like, "No." But yeah, it was a little overboard when you have him being so gleeful about it too. But yeah, it was a lot of it was a lot of fun, that little bit there as they're going through training. But what I do want to say too is that the other part of training was supposed to be somebody else, right? Like, hey, I'm going to give you a piece of paper. Talk about character growth, Logan. Jamie gets a piece of paper that says Jamie, and he's disappointed, right? He's like,
yep.
who am I supposed to be?
I don't want to be me.
What was that? What was that line in season 1 of why
Yeah,
wouldn't I want to be
yeah.
me? Total 180 here for Jamie is now he wants to be somebody else. He wanted to try something new, which is totally different than from what he was typically asking for.
And this was my favorite part of the whole episode, as far as comedy was concerned, when Isaac and Danny get each other, and Isaac's like, Isaac tries the football, and he starts speaking Spanish, and they sounded just like each other. I was like, that was brilliant, because they've gotten these two characters that are just totally different. Isaac's very like Roy Kent ish, and Danny's high on life. So it's just like football is life. They have Isaac doing that, and then Danny gets that like, he just starts to like grumble. I loved it. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good bit. Um but it was interesting for Ted to go out there and try that, right? Like,
Yes.
hey,
Yeah.
we're not going to focus on I don't know if it worked, right? Like I don't know if it worked because ultimately what the end product is Jamie going to the whiteboard and
Mhm.
saying, "You guys are doing it wrong, right? You're doing it wrong. You're trying to go to May instead of going through May, right?" So he changes the whiteboard. It does look a bit like how Roy had it with the 5 people
Yep.
tied via dicks. But what was also interesting is the parallel between Zava and Jamie. And this is where people are like, what was the point of Zava? This is the point of Zava, right? We saw Zava just move everyone down and put one striker up there. Jamie moves himself from striker into the midfield and changes the whole thing. He's giving up his whole identity, and what it's something that will disappoint his dad, right? Didn't his dad say before that he wants to be when he passed it in season 1, right?
Yeah.
You're not the one that scored. And we're seeing this growth of Jamie. We'll see if it ever ties back in with his dad and stuff like that, but we're seeing this growth of Jamie realizing this is what I'm good at, right? And we get to see it in Arsenal when he they're 3-0 down and they go out and win the game, not win the game, sorry, score a goal. And I liked that, Logan,
Yeah.
because one thing I wanted was them to not just start total football and start annihilating teams. The realism of they were struggling to adapt to it. They score a goal after Jamie makes his move at halftime. And even though they lost, they have something to move forward with. And I think that will be the spark that helps the team in the long run.
Yeah, Arlo says it too, because he's like, that was some growth. Like they looked a lot better in the second half when Jamie was starting to give the ball more midfield and creating. Um, so yeah, no, kudos to the writers. Like again, totally different what another show would do. I think the other show would have him come back and win somehow 4-3, which isn't realistic in Premier League. So
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. It's very rare, like extremely rare, especially a team that low on the table against a team that would presumably be at the top. So no, I enjoyed that, but I do love I just love Jamie's whole character arc. Like I think it's really fantastic how we thought he was a prick, and then we find out why he's a prick, and then he's no longer really a prick. He just wants to. He's a fun-loving kid that just was in the wrong situation. Now he's grown so much, and he's really taken to Roy, who he couldn't stand. So it is really
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, this is, we all kind of thought, oh, it's just going to be Zava leaves. Jamie's going to step up in the 9 spot, but instead he's kind of stepping back into the 10 spot, and he knows how to play this style. And every single Richmond player touches the ball in the build up to that goal. It's just absolutely wonderful. And I'm glad that Arlo shouted out it being like him as the
Like a magician, yeah,
magician, or like the conductor, right?
right.
The guy who is making all of this happen. I really like that they shout him out for that, because he touches it like a couple times, right? During that build, I was like, pass here, pass back to him, pass here, pass back to him, over the top, and then he even does the back heel to find Monteleur in the middle of the box, who's going to fire it in. So, I mean, it was actually beautiful football too. Like, that is, if you're not familiar with soccer and you're watching Ted Lasso, that is like what all the teams are trying to do when they play out the back, right? Is that type of buildup of everyone touching it going, no interruptions, no interceptions, just beautiful passing all the way into the back of the net. So before we jump over to Sam, then I guess let's talk Nate, who I thought had another great episode this week. We kind of didn't see him last week because it was Amsterdam, right? This week we have him asking out Jade finally. I like how he goes in there and he's going to just ask her, and then he's like, no, I got to do this like a more special way, right? He thinks about that conversation he had with his sister, right? And he's like, I'm going to go do this a different way. He's like, actually, excuse me. He leaves for like a whole day. He's going to go put together this box. It's going to get run over, which was heartbreaking. I did like Jade's response of there was nothing alive in there, right? But it was just, I think, again, another character growth moment. He goes to the mirror, Logan, and he doesn't spit on himself.
Yeah, I was waiting. I was like, please don't. Like, please don't. And he doesn't. It's that's what I turned. I remember turning to Ashley and go, he's gonna spit in the freaking mirror again. It's one of my, like, it just has that. Like, I think it's triggering because of what he's done when he's done that. So it's like, oh, here we go again. But he doesn't do it. And I think they balance each other out so perfectly because she is so dry and he doesn't really get dry humor. So it's kind of like, I think it's a perfect match. I really do enjoy it. I'm glad that they kind of turned that into something, because I thought the very first time that it happened, my wife and I both were like, you know what, that seems like something that could happen.
Yeah, and something else about this moment with Nate too. I find it interesting that you thought he was going to spit, because I knew he wasn't going to. I just had that vibe of he's grown at this point, and he had a whole different look in his eye in the mirror. But I really enjoyed just his whole thing of he connected with his dad even, right? Like, he doesn't actually speak to his dad, but he uses the same sort of approach his dad takes. And his mom says what he's like his father when it comes to this, but it's something that Nate hasn't actually ever, I guess, actually ever connected on with his dad on, right? Because his dad has always been so hard on him. So it's kind of created this barrier, and it's made Nate hard on himself, which has put him in this bad loop. But when he has his family talk about it, and they show him that his dad even did something like this, but with a map, because his dad's a cartographer, and showing, like where their families came from, which I thought was very nice. I do wish we could have seen fully Nate presenting it to her, but it's that subversion of what you think is going to happen, and then that didn't matter. She was going to say yes anyway. And I think that is uplifting for Nate as well, because he didn't have to go the extra mile. She was going to say yes just because he is who he is. He didn't have to make some sort of grand gesture. And I do wish people would think about that a little bit more, because I think sometimes we see these rom-coms and stuff and we think we have to do something as grand for it to stick out or to impress the person. But she was already smitten. And a lot of times that's probably how it already is before you even do, go that extra mile. I don't know if I want to be with somebody that needs me to make a box for them. You know what I'm saying? To say yes, because it's like, what, you didn't like me for me? Like, so I do like that Nate found somebody that's interested in him, not like Anastasia, right? Where she is interested in just being with somebody who is famous and, she didn't like the restaurant, stuff like that. So I do like that Keely goes to the restaurant, gets the table too, by the way. But yeah, I just love what they're doing with Nate so far in this season. I know some people still can't stand him, but I've seen a lot of comments about how he's really turned people around, and I think that is fantastic.
Yeah, the way they've done it has been much more subtle than I thought. Like it's no interactions with Ted. It really is just Nate. Nate starting to realize what a jerk he's been. Right. I think that's been the most, I guess, breath of fresh air is that he's the one realizing that he's made the mistake and he's coming to terms with it. Is what he's doing. Like, yes, he can be a successful manager, but you can still be friends with your competitors. Like that happens all the time. Like Pep and Jurgen, they love each other. Like it's that mutual respect. Like, yeah, you want to beat them, but you can also be friends with people that you're competing against. It happens all the time. So it's an interesting take. I love that they're taking it this way, and you're starting to get more and more of Nate's story of why he's the way that he is. And again, it's a lot of daddy issues, a lot of the father issues where the father was so tough on Nate that he's never going to be good enough in his father's eyes. And that's the way Nate's always seen it. Whereas his mother and sister, like his sister idolizes him. Like she loves him. She thinks that he's,
yeah, she was asking questions about West Ham and stuff,
being the best Premier League manager. What's it feel like? Like she legit meant it. So she was.
Well, and his dad even throws a dig in when they leave, right? I'll leave you guys to your girl talk.
Yeah.
Right.
But again, it just shows, and the mom and the daughter and his sister care so much about him. So it's an interesting dynamic. It's literally he just does not he does not live up to what his father wanted. It's you see it all the time. It's the way Jamie is too. So.
All right, let's talk Sam. I think it's time to talk Sam here, which is a parallel here with some real world stuff that has happened both in the UK and the US. They take the slogan right from the US though, right? This shut up and dribble, which I don't think is, it still works because you can dribble a soccer ball,
Right.
but I don't think it was as popular over there calling it that. For people that don't know, this was obviously taken from, what was it, LeBron speaking out? Somebody
LeBron.
speaking out. Yeah, LeBron, and politicians telling him, and news people on Fox and stuff telling him to shut up and dribble, which then gets presented to here. My thoughts on the beginning of this, I felt like it was very heavy-handed, right? Because I don't know if it was, I didn't know where it was going, I guess, but I thought maybe this was just all they were going to give Sam here at the beginning. I like that they actually focused on him the rest of the time. Just with the way that Sam has been treated this season, I was expecting like, okay, he's just going to exchange some tweets and that'll be it. But it did lead somewhere better. But with this, I felt like it was a little heavy-handed at the beginning here. But I think it pays off here when we actually see his dad, who is the special guest from the summary that it said, who is supposed to come for the Friday opening. And I guess his dad didn't know it was named after him until the light come on.
I didn't realize
There's
it.
a sign outside.
Yeah, but I didn't realize what his dad's name was. So like,
Me neither. I think it was revealed.
yeah, I think
in
that's what
this.
it was, right? That it's revealed because my wife and I like were watching it, and when he first comes in, I guess we can talk about it. But like, I don't know if you want to jump that far, but
We can just jump around the whole story. It's
okay.
fine. Go ahead.
So like, at the end of the episode, when he's presented the restaurant that Sam had worked so hard for, but had been vandalized and completely destroyed by people that were racist, and just wanted to go after it because of the bigot politician. It's cool because the way that it's set up is the window had been broken out of the door, and that's where Ola's would have been. Like, it's written on the door above, but it was covered because the window had been broken and they were doing work. Because remember, they move it to step into the door, so they kind of move the curtain back and step in. So he doesn't know until they fix that neon light in the back that says Ola's. And I got choked up big time during this part because it was so good. Like, this ending was so good. I was like, oh my gosh, this show.
I think the part that got me was Sam and his dad dancing while they were cooking.
Yep.
I think that's when I started crying. And of course the team being there, helping him out without being asked. Led by Jamie Tart.
Yes.
Again, this is the character growth here. Somebody that did not want to do anything with teammates before. He's there. He's a good influence on all of the team. No Ted pressing the team to do this, Logan. They did this by themselves, which I think is amazing. And what some people are speculating does maybe lead to Ted leaving. I think that is a question mark we can kind of ask real quick and get back on track with Sam. Some people think this is showing, as Trent Krim says, he has been building this for years to show them, what being footballers are about in this Ted Lasso way. Okay, when the team is doing this stuff on their own, do they need Ted Lasso anymore? And that might be the question. That might be the thing that when it comes time to the end of season 3 here, or whenever the show ends, that Ted does see all of these, Isaac has changed. Sam has become more, he was very, very shy and very not confident. And now he's the opposite. And he's doing stuff for the good of his community. He's not just shutting up and dribbling. And then we also have the growth of Jamie Tart and the growth of Roy into a coach. This shows, I think, that this team can sustain itself without Ted. And that might be the way they go. He might even see it and say, I left my mark here. I didn't win it all, but I made these people better. Just like how he said with coaching college, right, is to make these kids into men type of thing. It's that sort of thing of making these people better humans, somebody you can be proud of off the field. That might be, Coach Lasso's lasting mark here on the team.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't even think of that. But like, he says it too. He says like, I think it's because Henry asked him at one point too. He's like, when are you coming home, or like when is your time up with Richmond? And he gives an answer of like, when we get to the point where they've learned to basically be the Ted, or to learn the Ted Lasso way. Like, it was more of like, my time will be done here when they start playing, and like we talked about before, like winning a championship's not going to be realistic. But I think them finally learning to be a team, to the growth that Ted wanted to see, and then maybe the show does go on. Maybe we do get a 4th season, but it's not with Sudeikis, because I know he was the one that said that he had no interest in really doing more than 3. And so I wonder if Goldstein and them, I could see them totally wanting to run the show still and letting them run it. So maybe that's where we're headed to. I don't know. I think it could do without Ted. Like, I think you could do it without Ted. So
he's been barely present this season.
Yeah.
I think again. I mean, he's been in the show, but I mean, coaching wise, he's been not doing anything until this last 2 weeks, right? Like this episode specifically. It's when he kind of got back in the coaching. We're seeing them on the field saying, "Hey, listen up. This is what you're going to do." We haven't seen that in a long time. So I do like that we got to see that. But yeah, I just think that, and the way that Trent said it makes it seem like it's
Yeah.
He's like, this is not something you've done over just a week. This is something you've been doing over 3 years, and it's driving home the point. I think that's the case, right? That they are driving home this point of Ted has been building these people for 3 years. This Jamie change is not overnight. He put in the time, he put in the hours with all of these players to make them comfortable and believe in themselves. And something that can kind of get pointed out as well that I saw people say is when you see that scene with the water bottle, right? Where everyone is in sync, fixing Will's water bottle, putting it back in the thing, and then the last person who like fixes it to be upright. They are all working with each other and knowing where each person's going to be and what they can do to set it right without needing to say a word. But then they go out on the field and they can't do it there until that was them again working in this thing of I know where you are, you know where I am, and working together and doing it the Ted Lasso way. So again, it's just like some of the subtle things. I don't know if that scene is entirely subtle, but I mean, it's not outright spoken in the show of like, remember when we did that water bottle thing, guys? We can do this on the field.
Yep. And the Trent thing, I totally forgot that scene, and that's a big scene. Trent comes in like when you were a little kid and you solved a puzzle and you're happy to tell your parents that you finally solved what they're trying to teach you. Like, this is the big lesson behind what I've been trying to learn. I got it now. Thanks. Like, thank you for.
This is the book. This is the book. The book is going to be about the Ted Lasso way and probably how he shaped these people into becoming better humans and how it resulted on the field, as well.
We better get a damn monologue at the end of Ted Lasso.
That is him reading out the book. Yeah, that would be great. That would be very great. Damn, what an episode, right? I mean, this episode was just so good. I can't wait for Joy to catch up. I mean, she hasn't seen season 2, but like her opinion of Jamie was like, he's a prick. I can't wait for her to get to these episodes where he is just like the shining player on the team.
Shite in knighting armor. Absolutely.
A shite in knighting armor. I do think maybe that is still the case. He's wearing number 9 still. Yeah. And it's, we'll see. But Rebecca last week, by the way, had the whole wet but safe thing, Logan. I think all we're missing is the lightning and upside down thing. Yeah. We got 5 episodes to get that out. So let's go ahead and say our player of the week. I'll go first here. I got Jamie. for being able to turn this team around here at halftime and saying, look, hey, this is going to sound like old Jamie here, but it's not me, it's you. And I'll explain why. Right. And the fact that it does sound like what old Jamie would say, but it was more profound. And I don't know. Again, this character has been great. So my player of the week is Jamie Tart.
I'm going Samuel Basanya. Tackled racism, did it in a way, and was so realistic. That scene when he comes in and Isaac and him like bump into each other, and he goes, "What the hell?" Like, basically, what are you doing?
Oh yeah, he like throws his bag. Yeah. He's like pissed. Yes.
He's like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Never seen him so mad.
You're late. What the hell are you doing? I'm the captain. Like, and they bump into each other. He's like, "Dude, like, what the hell?" And you can tell there's this frustration. But then Sam turns, and while he's pissed, all of a sudden it turns into like that when you're pissed and you're upset, and you just get that real like you can't really think about what you're saying, and you just say it, and he's just like, we're soccer players, but like I'm not just going to shut up and dribble kind of thing. Like that's I'm a person. Like, don't treat me like a damn person, because so many times we forget that too.
That's the thing that was the line from Sam there of they want me to just shut up and play,
but they'll root for me.
And they hate me, right? But then they love me for playing.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And that's the thing I never understood. Like whenever we talk about racism and like even people doing that to their own players and stuff, it's like, but you love when they score a touchdown. Yeah. You love when they score a goal. Why aren't you just loving this guy no matter what, Especially Sam. Sam is just so lovely.
Yep.
I don't know. He's got to be like a player, fans' favorites. I mean, at this point, I don't know. I hope I hope this doesn't drive Sam out of football. I think he'll stick his ground. I think he'll
Yeah.
play and be outspoken
Yeah.
because you can do both.
And can I just say too, like we really didn't get into Ola a whole lot, but like Ola is the reason Sam is the way that he is. It's why, like, you know, we've had so many issues with Jamie and his dad, Nate and his dad, Ted's dad died. Like, we've had so many issues with dads, right? And how awful Rupert is as a father. He is a father. So, like, you know, we get all these horrible stories, but then Ola, you get why Sam is so generous and so kind. And now you think back to the Dubai Airs and your Airways, and you're thinking about all this stuff that Ola's been a part of. And then he is everything you want him to be. Like, I love when Ted like comes into the weight room when they're sitting there, and they start exchanging words, and then Sam and them start talking, and then Ted like Sam leaves because he has to get ready for practice, because Ola's like, no, you're not going to just skip practice. Like, that's not how I raised you. You're going to practice with your teammates. And then Ted goes,
Yeah.
hey, I was thinking about wearing the same thing. And Ola just laughs. He's like, no, like, you know, that's not how.
He thanks Ted
Yes,
too,
yes.
right? For
How cool.
everything he's done.
Yep.
You know, Ted's really looked
Yep.
out for him. So that's, you know, I love the scene where he meets Rebecca.
Yeah. And it's
As well,
awkward.
he's
And
like,
he goes,
oh, so you're Rebecca.
yeah. I love in the car later when Sam goes, oh my God, you did not. And he goes, oh no, I did. And he goes, did you make it awkward? And he's like, oh, I absolutely did. Like,
Yeah.
that was the...
I like that he's aware.
Yeah.
He's aware of it. Okay, employee of the week. I have Roy Kent because I loved his bit when it's halftime and he's throwing in Ted Lasso isms while Ted is talking. He's like, I hate what you've done to me. So I give it to Roy here.
I'm going to go out of the box. I'm going to go Will for his beard impression. I thought
Yes, that was great. That was so good.
Because Ted looks at Will and goes, wow, that was really good. That was so good.
I like when Trent looks at him and then he's like thinking it's Beard, and then he's like in the office, and he's like, oh no, it's just
yeah. Then that's when Beard goes, when Will's still sitting there, and he goes, get the hell out of here. Like,
yeah. Oh boy, that was
because you know what's happening on the scene. Like, just imagine what's happening behind the scenes where they realize that this kid can do a perfect beard. Like,
he did a perfect beard with his, like, what does he shout out? Like something Beard has said before.
I forget what it was, but it was like, it was so Beard. It was like, oh, that was great. I can't remember what it was now.
Next week, or actually in an hour 15 minutes from when we're recording, the next episode drops, but we'll talk about it next week. It's called We'll Never Have Paris. While watching Henry, Ted fights the urge to spiral when Michelle and Dr. Jacob go on a romantic trip. An online leak has massive implications for Keely. What do you think could leak here? Just like that, like something business-wise or something personal life-wise?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, maybe she rekindles something with Roy. I don't know. That's just a spitball there. Because, like, unless there's something that, oh, you know what? Maybe, what's her name was actually
Shandy.
Yeah, maybe she's the one that, like, because it's basically like, what, bribes, isn't it? Like, that's illegal to pay, like, to give generous gifts. Maybe that kind of stuff gets out. Like, maybe that they think that she's bribing Keely to have a relationship with her. I don't know. That's something I could think of.
Oh, okay.
Like, basically, you know, like under the table, giving her extravagant gifts and maybe that's why she brought up not Shandy,
Barbara. Yeah.
Why she brought up the expensive gifts. I don't know. But you're probably right. It probably does deal with Shandy.
I was thinking Shandy with her app.
Yeah.
Maybe she makes up some sort of fabrication that Keely has to deal with. I don't know. Or maybe it's like an actual online leak of, like, you know how people hack in and leak actual personal info, and it's bad for Keely's app, and maybe that helps the business go under. I don't know. I mean, that could be something that could be a problem. I'm a little worried about the Ted storyline next week because I'm kind of just want him to get over the whole Michelle Dr. Jacob thing. I know that's tough to say. He was married to her for a while, and this guy did like steal his wife, but just kind of over it. Just kind of over that. I want him to just have a good time with Henry is really what I want. So for all the people that thought Michelle is like smiling at that one time, like, yeah, I'm going to get back together with Ted. I don't think that's the case. I do just think it was her being like, hey, he finally stood up for himself. I'm still going to F Dr. Jacob, though. Like, I think that was her thought process there. But hopefully he doesn't have to fight the urge too much. I hope that's just a summary thing. But I do also like that people have been pointing out, you know, when Ted's talking to Dr. Sharon, that Dr. Jacob was Michelle's therapist first. Because he says when we did couples therapy, it was somebody that she had already been seeing that she convinced me to go to. And he felt set up because Dr. Jacob was taking her side. So I think their relationship may have started before the end of Ted's relationship, maybe. I don't know. That might be something that he's thinking about once he realized she's with Dr. Jacob. That might be part of the reason why he wants to spiral. But what do you think the title means? Do you think that's Michelle saying that to Ted because Michelle and Jacob go to Paris? I don't know.
Sorry, what's the title again? Like,
we'll never have Paris.
I mean, I just feel like Ted is still, I don't know, I feel like just Ted's still hanging on to this thing, like you said, and I just don't think it's going to work. Like, that's my thought, but I don't know. Like, I don't really know how it's going to go. I mean, people, everything I read, people think he's going to go back to the U.S., but I don't know if he gets back with Michelle.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. That'll wrap us up here. I think looking forward to the episode. I don't know if we have how long it is. Let me double check real quick because these episodes have been kind of getting to like an hour. It's 54 minutes. It's been getting close to an hour each, which means that I think we still have a good chunk of the a good chunk of. Here you go. Here's the Coach Beard impression.
Coach, I miss anything?
That's it, baby. Let's go.
There you go. That's perfect.
That is-
Perfect.
You heard him.
So if you want to send us any feedback, at Stateside Show on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.com, or on Twitter at Believe_cast. I think you can reach out to the Ted Lasso rewatch at Gmail now. I think I got the issue fixed. They shut down the email account. I got it reopened, but you can also just send it to statesideshow@gmail.com if you have any feedback. You can rate us on iTunes under the Believecast feed, where you can give us some reviews if you like what we're doing, even if you don't like what we're doing. That's how we can get feedback. But yeah, I'm enjoying the season, loving it, and can't wait to talk about the next episode with you, Logan.